Christmas Eve in Sonoma County is supposed to feel like something out of a movie. The vineyards glow under that winter sunset, the air smells like pine trees and fireplaces, and for a second you almost believe life is softer than it really is. I was driving up Highway 121 that night, watching the daylight disappear behind the hills, and I remember thinking maybe, just maybe, this year would finally feel different. Maybe this would finally be the Christmas I actually felt like I belonged. My dad had turned 61 a few days earlier, and Marianne had planned this big, combined celebration. Fancy Christmas Eve dinner, private dining room, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the valley. One of those places where the wine list looks thicker than a textbook. She sent out a group text weeks before. Semi-formal, 7 o'clock sharp. Everyone would be there. I spent the afternoon carefully wrapping Dad's gift, a vintage World War II pilot's compass I found at an antique shop in Sacramento. Something meaningful, something personal. I tied the ribbon perfectly, folded every corner neat, because that's always who I was, the one who showed up, the one who tried, the one who wanted things to be perfect. What were you doing the moment you realized your family didn't see you the way you saw them? I can tell you exactly where I was, sitting in the parking lot at 6:58 p.m., checking my makeup in the rearview mirror, making sure I looked right, making sure I wouldn't embarrass him. The restaurant looked beautiful inside, warm lights, huge Christmas tree in the lobby. The hostess smiled and led me through the buzzing dining room, then down a quiet hallway toward the private room in the back. I heard laughter before I even walked in. Glasses clinking, people talking loudly. When I stepped inside, they were all already seated. Dad stood at the head of the table in a navy blazer, looking like the picture-perfect successful contractor. Marianne stood beside him in a cream dress with that perfect wife look. Lucas and his girlfriend were dressed like country club kids, and Aunt Evelyn, wearing too much perfume and that smug smile she always had, like she knew something you didn't. "Hey everyone, Merry Christmas," I said. Dad nodded. Marianne glanced at me and then pretended I wasn't there. Lucas just lifted his glass a little. Aunt Evelyn smiled too big and said, "Oh, Brooke, you actually made it," like it was a surprise I'd show up at all. I set Dad's gift on the side table and took off my coat. That's when I noticed it. I've always been good at noticing details. 8 years in pararescue will do that to you. You learn to scan a room, count people, see what doesn't fit. The table was beautifully set. White tablecloth, tall candles, crystal glasses, china with gold trim, and without even meaning to, I started counting automatically. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 plates. Then I counted the people. Dad, Marianne, Lucas, his girlfriend, Aunt Evelyn, me. 6 people, 6 place settings. But they weren't spaced evenly. All of them were grouped together toward one end, and at the end nearest to me, there was nothing, just empty white tablecloth, a blank space where my seat should have been. I stood there holding my purse, staring at that empty spot. Maybe it was a mistake. Maybe someone would notice. Maybe someone would say something. Nobody did. They just casually started sitting down like everything was completely normal. Dad pulled out Marianne's chair. Lucas sat down laughing with his girlfriend. Aunt Evelyn reached for the wine like she'd earned it. And I was still standing there, with nowhere to sit. Dad finally looked at me. And he smiled. Not confused, not apologetic, just satisfied. Then he said it, loud enough for the whole room. "Oops, looks like we miscounted. Seats are only for family." The words hit like a slap. Aunt Evelyn laughed. Lucas smirked. Marianne tried not to smile, but oh, she was enjoying it. Something inside me went quiet. Very quiet. I've been in situations where panic kills people, where you only survive if you stay calm. First thing they teach in pararescue is simple. Don't react emotionally. Assess, decide, execute. So I didn't cry, I didn't yell, I didn't ask why. I just looked at the man I'd spent 32 years trying to make proud, the man whose mortgage I helped secure using my veteran benefits, the man who was supposed to be my father. And I said quietly, "Guess that means I'm not family." No one spoke. No one apologized. He just kept smiling. So I picked up my coat and walked out through the warm dining room full of families celebrating together, past the hostess who wished me happy holidays, out into the cold night air. I got in my car, hands shaking, not from sadness, not from shock, from clarity. I sat there with the engine running, staring at the glowing restaurant in my mirror, watching the shadow of my family laughing at a table I apparently didn't belong at. And in that moment, something in me shifted. I'd spent 8 years saving people, holding lives together, being strong. But sometimes the strongest thing you can do in America is simple. Stop saving people who clearly don't want you. So I made 3 calls. First, to Naomi at USAA. She picked up, even on Christmas Eve. Businesslike, clear, handled. Second, to Grant Wilder, the restaurant general manager, former Marine. I knew he'd understand respect. Third, to Lydia Moore, my attorney. Straight voicemail. Short, direct. 5 minutes total. Then I put my phone down, pulled out of the lot, and didn't look back. And 30 minutes later, everything changed. My strength didn't start that night. It started years earlier. My real mom died when I was 16, ovarian cancer. 11 brutal months from diagnosis to funeral. Dad couldn't handle it. He buried himself in work, coming home late smelling like sawdust and exhaustion. So I handled everything else, because back then I still loved him. I learned how to change her IV bags. I learned the sound of her breathing when she couldn't sleep. I sat beside her bed reading the same books she once read to me when I was little. When she died, it was just Dad and me left in that house that suddenly felt too quiet. He didn't talk about her, didn't keep photos out. It was like he packed the grief into a locked box and shoved it somewhere dark. So I learned to do the same thing. 2 weeks after my 18th birthday, I enlisted in the Air Force. Dad didn't love the idea, but I needed distance. I needed out of that house of silence and all the words we never said. After basic, I applied for pararescue. Most people don't really know what pararescue is. When I tell folks I served in the Air Force, they picture me sitting at a desk or working on jets. They don't picture helicopters, combat zones, and pulling bleeding soldiers out of burning wrecks. Pararescue is special operations. We go in when everyone else is trying to get out. Our motto is simple, that others may live. The training pipeline lasts nearly 2 years. It's built to break you. They want to find the ones who stay calm when every instinct screams quit. I remember water confidence training specifically. They tied my hands behind my back and shoved me into a pool. I sank. My lungs burned. My vision darkened. Every instinct told me to thrash and fight. But I didn't. I let myself sink, counted to 10, then pushed off the bottom and came back up. My instructor nodded once and said, "Good, you stayed calm. That's what keeps you alive." I carried that lesson with me everywhere. Through dive school, jump school, combat medic training, through my first deployment to Afghanistan at 22, through missions where bullets snapped through the air while we raced in to save lives. There's one mission I still see in my sleep. A convoy hit an IED outside Kandahar, multiple casualties. When we landed, gunfire was cracking from the tree line. The vehicle was burning. 3 men were down. I didn't think, I just moved. Stabilized the first guy, checked the second guy's airway, crawled under the burning vehicle with another PJ to pull the third one out, while the heat roasted the metal inches from my face. We loaded them onto the helicopter. 2 survived, 1 didn't. When we touched down, I was covered in blood and shaking so hard my fingers barely worked. But I didn't cry. I didn't break down. I filed the report, cleaned my gear, went to eat like it was just another day. Because that's what we do. We stay calm. We do the job, we keep moving. 4 deployments in 6 years. I held it together while the world around me burned. I became exactly what they trained me to be: steady, reliable, unbreakable. Every time I came home, Dad would look at me with pride and say, "You're tough, kid. You can handle anything." He said it after my first deployment, when I couldn't sleep through the night; after my second, when my shoulder injuries still made rain painful; after my third, when my best friend didn't come home at all. "You're strong," he'd say. "You don't need anyone taking care of you." And I believed him. I thought strength meant I didn't deserve help. I thought being capable meant I didn't need love. So I stopped asking. I stopped sharing. I stopped expecting anything from them at all. I stopped expecting them to be there for me. And then, about 2 years ago, but I didn't. Because deep down, I was still that 16-year-old girl sitting beside my dying mom, still trying to be enough. So I said yes. I signed. I put my name on a mortgage for a house I'd never live in. I handed over benefits I earned with blood, sweat, and deployment scars so my dad and his new family could get exactly what they wanted. Dad hugged me afterward. He doesn't hug much. He said, "I'm proud of you. You really came through for us." For about 5 whole minutes, I actually believed I mattered. Then life went right back to normal. They moved into the beautiful new house. Marianne decorated it like a designer magazine spread. Lucas claimed the best guest room. And me? I got random texts asking when I was planning to visit, like I was some distant relative instead of the reason their house even existed. I was useful. I was convenient. But I wasn't family. Not really. Not until that restaurant night when I counted the chairs and heard him say it out loud. Seats are only for family. That's when it finally clicked. My strength didn't protect me. It made me easy to exploit. Sitting in my car that Christmas Eve, hands shaking around my phone after those 3 calm, calculated calls, I realized something else. I'd spent my adult life saving other people. Maybe it was time to save myself. Back when this all started, it was spring 2018 when Dad first mentioned moving. He and Marianne had been married about a year. She wanted bigger, better, newer, something that represented their life, not the house where my mom once lived and died. And honestly, I got it. That house held ghosts. Her empty garden, her kitchen, the room she took her last breath in. But houses in Sonoma County aren't cheap, especially not the kind Marianne had her heart set on. His business was okay, but not great. Credit wasn't perfect, savings weren't enough for a real down payment, so Marianne came up with a plan. They invited me over for Sunday dinner, pot roast, mashed potatoes, sitting at my mom's old table like some emotional theater setup. After dinner, Dad used the tone I knew too well, the "I'm about to ask you for something" tone. Marianne jumped ahead. She described this perfect house in Healdsburg: 4 bedrooms, vineyard views, luxury everything. "That's great," I told them, and I meant it. Then Dad said it. Financing was an issue. Payments were higher than expected, rates weren't ideal. Then Marianne reached across the table, touched my hand, and said so sweetly, "This is where you come in." They wanted my VA benefit. If I co-signed, no down payment, better mortgage, the dream becomes reality. "You wouldn't pay anything," Marianne promised, "just your name, just on paper." Dad leaned forward. "It'd really help us out, just a signature, no big deal." I should have walked away right then. I knew better. I knew what responsibility meant. But I looked at my dad sitting in that house full of memories, and I wanted desperately to be the daughter he could finally be proud of. So I agreed. 2 months of paperwork followed: bank meetings, military documentation, proof of service. Naomi, the USAA loan officer, explained everything carefully. "You understand you're just as responsible for this loan as they are, right?" "Yes." "And you understand you can't use your VA home benefit again until your name is removed." "I know." She paused, studied me. "Make sure you trust these people." "It's my dad," I said. Like that meant something. The house was stunning. Craftsman style, oak trees, long driveway, massive kitchen, luxury master suite, backyard built for parties. Price tag? $475,000. Monthly? Around $2,800. I went with them to closing, signed 17 times, promissory note, VA guarantee, legal commitment for nearly $500,000. When it was done, the title officer handed Dad the keys. Marianne cried, hugged me, called me a blessing. Dad shook my hand like I had just helped him close a business deal. For a few minutes, I felt like their daughter again. They moved in. I helped pack boxes. Lucas got the best room. Marianne set up her office. Dad claimed the garage. Nobody offered me a room. Nobody even considered it. The one time I stayed, I slept on the couch. Marianne apologized. Just didn't get around to finishing the guest room yet. Maybe next time. There wasn't a next time. At first, they were grateful. Marianne called often, updates, house projects, happy chatter. Then less. Then barely. Then only holidays. Payments auto-drafted. I never saw statements, never saw documents, just blind faith and trust. Then, 1 year later, I drove up for Dad's 60th birthday. Lucas and his girlfriend were lounging in the living room like royalty. "Oh hey, didn't know you were coming," said Lucas with outstanding. "I texted Dad yesterday." "Oh, guess he forgot." Marianne walked out of the kitchen surprised. "Oh, Brooke, we weren't expecting you. We actually have dinner plans with friends tonight, but you can stay here, leftovers in the fridge." I stood in the doorway of the house my name was attached to, realizing there wasn't a birthday seat for me there either. I left early. Dad followed me to my car and gave me a quick one-armed hug. "Thanks for stopping by, kid." Like I was a neighbor dropping off cookies. That night, back in my apartment, I opened my loan paperwork, really read it, slowly, carefully. I was tied to $475,000. If they messed up, my credit would be destroyed. If they defaulted, it was my problem. I'd handed them full control over my financial future and could barely sleep under their roof. That's when reality sunk in. I hadn't helped my family. I'd handed them power over me. They either didn't understand that, or worse, they did and didn't care. Either way, I was trapped. 2 years later, Christmas Eve, sitting in my car outside that restaurant, I pulled those documents up on my phone. My breath fogged the glass while I reread everything Naomi had warned me about. Make sure you trust these people. I had trusted them with everything I had, and they had just announced to my face that I wasn't family. After the move, everything kept shifting, slowly, quietly. Marianne became the sun everything revolved around. She planned every holiday, every dinner, every event. Dad let her take total control. Maybe he was tired, maybe he didn't notice, maybe he just didn't care. Family dinners turned into performances, perfect table settings, perfect meals, perfect conversations, controlled by her. Lucas was always the star. Tell everyone about your new job. Talk about your promotion. So proud of you, sweetheart. Dad started calling him son. When it came to me, quick small talk, a nod, move on. Nobody asked if I was happy. Nobody asked about my life. Meanwhile, I had major career wins, serious achievements. Didn't matter. Lucas got a car? Party. Lucas got a promotion? Facebook celebration. Lucas got serious with a girlfriend? Permanent family guest. Me? Silence. I told myself I didn't need their approval. I was grown. I'd survived war zones. I didn't need emotional cookies. But it still hurt. The first time I realized I was actively being cut out was Thanksgiving 2023. Marianne sent a "everyone is welcome" text. I replied immediately, offered to bring dessert. She never replied. 2 weeks out, I followed up. That's when she sent it. "Oh honey, we decided to keep it small this year, just immediate family." Immediate family. And I was not included, even though my name held up their roof, even though my benefit bought their dream, even though everything existed because of me. That's when the truth finally stopped whispering and started screaming. I helped make that house happen for them, but somehow I still wasn't family. Thanksgiving rolled around, and I ended up sitting alone in my apartment, eating cheap Chinese takeout straight from the box while football played in the background. No invite, no text, no, hey, we miss you, nothing. The next day, I opened Facebook and there it was, the perfect happy family Thanksgiving slideshow. Big smiles, fancy food, Lucas and his girlfriend, Aunt Evelyn, even relatives of Marianne's I had never seen before. The caption said, "So thankful for family." I wasn't in a single picture, not even mentioned. When I finally called my dad later, he acted confused, like he didn't get why I was upset. "What do you mean? Marianne told me she texted you." I said, "She said it was just for immediate family," I reminded him. He went quiet for a second. Then he said, "Well, you know how she is. She likes things simple. Don't take it personal." But seriously, how was I supposed to take it? Christmas that year, 2023, looked a little better. They invited me Christmas Eve. Nothing big, Marianne said, just something small. Pizza, cookies, opening a few gifts. When I showed up, I realized casual didn't apply to me. Everyone else was dressed up nicely. The food wasn't pizza. It was a catered dinner from some expensive Italian spot. The tree was loaded with high-end gifts wrapped like something from a magazine. Lucas got a brand new laptop, his girlfriend got expensive jewelry, Aunt Evelyn got a huge spa package, and me, I got a candle. A clearance candle. The sticker was still on it. And like always, I smiled, said thank you, pretended everything was normal. But that night, I cried driving home for the first time in years. Not a breakdown, just quiet tears slipping down my face at red lights. By spring of 2024, the pattern wasn't accidental anymore, it was a lifestyle. I was invited sometimes, but always as an afterthought, like I was a box they checked, not a person they cared about. Meanwhile, Lucas had become the golden boy. Everything he did was celebrated. Every little achievement was praised. He was the future, I was the background. Aunt Evelyn eventually mentioned Marianne wanted to update the will and protect Lucas's future. There was zero mention of me, meaning the house, my VA loan house, was going to Lucas someday. Nobody saw a problem with that. When Dad's 61st birthday came up in December, Marianne went all out. She planned a classy family Christmas Eve dinner at a private dining room in Sonoma. Semi-formal, vineyard views, perfect. She sent the group text and wrote, "Everyone confirmed, just need a final head count." Within an hour, I replied, "I'll be there, excited to celebrate Dad." She left me on red. Didn't even acknowledge it. For 2 weeks, the group chat was lively. Lucas confirming, his girlfriend confirming, wine choices, menu photos, outfit talk, like I didn't exist. 3 days before Christmas, I texted Marianne privately, "Hey, just checking in about dinner. Need me to bring anything?" 6 hours later, she replied, "Nope, everything's handled. See you there." But my gut wouldn't quiet down. I called Dad that night. He sounded distracted. "Everything good for Christmas Eve?" I asked. "Yep, Marianne's got it handled." "Dad, are we okay? I feel like I'm out of the loop lately." He sighed. "You're fine, Brooke. You're overthinking. Marianne's stressed. Just show up. Everything will be fine." I wanted to believe him. Christmas Eve came cold and clear. I carefully did my makeup, picked my black dress, wrapped Dad's gift extra nicely, drove to Sonoma watching the sunset, convincing myself this was going to be a real family moment. I had no clue I was driving straight toward my worst moment of my life. I walked inside, excited and nervous, until I saw the table and counted the chairs. There wasn't a seat for me. They literally didn't include me in the seating arrangement. Dad saw me standing there awkwardly and brushed it off. "Oh yeah, well, Marianne only planned for immediate family seating." They laughed, joked, brushed off my existence like it was nothing. They made it clear. I wasn't family. I left the room shaking, sat in my car, and something inside me went ice cold and laser focused. I've been trained for crisis. Air Force pararescue doesn't teach you to panic, it teaches you to stay calm, think, execute. So, I breathed, assessed the situation, and accepted the truth. If I wasn't family, then I didn't owe them loyalty anymore. I looked at my phone. I knew exactly who to call. Naomi Pierce, the VA loan specialist who helped us get the house, a woman who understood military people, someone who always answered. She picked up on the second ring. "Brooke, are you okay?" "I'm fine, but I need to talk about the VA loan I co-signed. I need to know my rights." She shifted straight into business mode. She explained everything. I couldn't magically drop off the mortgage without refinancing, but I had legal authority, access, power, and anything connected to my credit, anything in my name, I could shut down. And then she said the magic words, "You are legally allowed to protect yourself." Immediate family. And I was not included, even though my name held up their roof, even though my benefit bought their dream, even though everything existed because of me. That's when the truth finally stopped whispering and started screaming. I helped make that house happen for them, but somehow I still wasn't family. Thanksgiving rolled around, and I ended up sitting alone in my apartment, eating cheap Chinese takeout straight from the box while football played in the background. No invite, no text, no, "Hey, we miss you," nothing. The next day, I opened Facebook, and there it was, the perfect happy family Thanksgiving slideshow. Big smiles, fancy food, Lucas and his girlfriend, Aunt Evelyn, even relatives of Marianne's I had never seen before. The caption said, "So thankful for family." I wasn't in a single picture, not even mentioned. When I finally called my dad later, he acted confused, like he didn't get why I was upset. "What do you mean? Marianne told me she texted you." I said, "She said it was just for immediate family," I reminded him. He went quiet for a second. Then he said, "Well, you know how she is. She likes things simple. Don't take it personal." But seriously, how was I supposed to take it? Christmas that year, 2023, looked a little better. They invited me Christmas Eve. Nothing big, Marianne said, just something small. Pizza, cookies, opening a few gifts. When I showed up, I realized casual didn't apply to me. Everyone else was dressed up nicely. The food wasn't pizza, it was a catered dinner from some expensive Italian spot. The tree was loaded with high-end gifts wrapped like something from a magazine. Lucas got a brand new laptop, his girlfriend got expensive jewelry, Aunt Evelyn got a huge spa package, and me, I got a candle. A clearance candle. The sticker was still on it. And like always, I smiled, said thank you, pretended everything was normal. But that night, I cried driving home for the first time in years. Not a breakdown, just quiet tears slipping down my face at red lights. By spring of 2024, the pattern wasn't accidental anymore, it was a lifestyle. I was invited sometimes, but always as an afterthought, like I was a box they checked, not a person they cared about. Meanwhile, Lucas had become the golden boy. Everything he did was celebrated. Every little achievement was praised. He was the future, I was the background. Aunt Evelyn eventually mentioned Marianne wanted to update the will and protect Lucas's future. There was zero mention of me, meaning the house, my VA loan house, was going to Lucas someday. Nobody saw a problem with that. When Dad's 61st birthday came up in December, Marianne went all out. She planned a classy family Christmas Eve dinner at a private dining room in Sonoma. Semi-formal, vineyard views, perfect. She sent the group text and wrote, "Everyone confirmed, just need a final head count." Within an hour, I replied, "I'll be there, excited to celebrate Dad." She left me on red. Didn't even acknowledge it. For 2 weeks, the group chat was lively. Lucas confirming, his girlfriend confirming, wine choices, menu photos, outfit talk, like I didn't exist. 3 days before Christmas, I texted Marianne privately, "Hey, just checking in about dinner. Need me to bring anything?" 6 hours later, she replied, "Nope, everything's handled. See you there." But my gut wouldn't quiet down. I called Dad that night. He sounded distracted. "Everything good for Christmas Eve?" I asked. "Yep,
Marianne's got it handled. Dad, are we okay? I feel like I'm out of the loop lately. He sighed. You're fine, Brooke. You're overthinking. Marianne's stressed. Just show up. Everything will be fine. I wanted to believe him. Christmas Eve came cold and clear. I carefully did my makeup, picked my black dress, wrapped Dad's gift extra nicely, drove to Sonoma watching the sunset, convincing myself this was going to be a real family moment. I had no clue I was driving straight toward my worst moment of my life. I walked inside, excited and nervous, until I saw the table and counted the chairs. There wasn't a seat for me. They literally didn't include me in the seating arrangement. Dad saw me standing there awkwardly and brushed it off. Oh yeah, well, Marianne only planned for immediate family seating. They laughed, joked, brushed off my existence like it was nothing. They made it clear. I wasn't family. I left the room shaking, sat in my car, and something inside me went ice cold and laser focused. I've been trained for crisis. Air Force pararescue doesn't teach you to panic, it teaches you to stay calm, think, execute. So, I breathed, assessed the situation, and accepted the truth. If I wasn't family, then I didn't owe them loyalty anymore. I looked at my phone. I knew exactly who to call. Naomi Pierce, the VA loan specialist who helped us get the house, a woman who understood military people, someone who always answered. She picked up on the second ring. Brooke, are you okay? I'm fine, but I need to talk about the VA loan I co-signed. I need to know my rights. She shifted straight into business mode. She explained everything. I couldn't magically drop off the mortgage without refinancing, but I had legal authority, access, power, and anything connected to my credit, anything in my name, I could shut down. And then she said the magic words, "You are legally allowed to protect yourself."
That was all I needed. We hung up. I opened my banking apps. First thing seeing, Marianne was still an authorized user on my emergency credit card, just in case something happened with the house. Removed. Gone. 3 taps. Then I checked my transactions. There it was. The restaurant. The entire Christmas Eve dinner deposit charged to my card because their cards were maxed out. $750. I called the fraud department, filed a dispute, blocked the payment. Then I contacted the restaurant. Not the main line. The general manager. Former U.S. Marine. A man who understood accountability. I told him everything. Calm. Professional. Let him know the payment method was no longer valid. He asked how to handle it. Just follow your normal policy, I said. No drama needed. No special treatment. Just treat them like any other guest whose card doesn't work. He paused, then said quietly, I'm sorry they did that to you. I'll take care of it. And just like that, the bridge they'd been standing on, gone. 2 phone calls, 10 minutes, years of enabling, shut down. People think revenge is about rage, about screaming, breaking things, being reckless. Nah. Real revenge is clarity. It's finally recognizing I can't save people who would watch me drown. I can't protect people who never protected me. Inside the restaurant, they were probably laughing, toasting, celebrating. They had no idea the bill was coming. And this time, they were going to pay it themselves. I drove away with the windows cracked, cold December air filling the car, Christmas music playing softly. For the first time in years, I felt free. Turns out I had canceled that too. I'd totally forgotten I'd even linked it to them. Months earlier, Marianne asked if she could use my premium ride service account because I got better rates, and like always, I said yes without thinking. That night, while my dad was still sitting inside reading the menu, I called the company from the parking lot and removed their access. So there they were, 6 people, dressed up in semi-formal clothes, stranded outside a fancy restaurant in Sonoma on Christmas Eve. No ride, no backup plan, nothing. Aunt Evelyn told me later that Marianne started crying, not loud, dramatic sobbing, just quiet tears rolling down her face as she frantically scrolled her phone trying to find an Uber or Lyft. But it was Christmas Eve in wine country. Drivers were booked, offline, or surge prices were sky high. Dad's jaw was clenched so hard, Lucas said you could literally see it twitching. Lucas offered to call an old-school taxi, and Dad snapped, "They don't just have taxis sitting around Sonoma on Christmas Eve. Use your head." They stood there almost 20 minutes arguing before Aunt Evelyn finally said she'd drive them. Her car was parked 2 blocks away at her hotel. It was a tiny sedan. There were 6 of them, plus Lucas's girlfriend. So yeah, 2 trips. Dad and Marianne went first because, of course, Dad refused to wait. Aunt Evelyn told me the drive to their house was dead silent, except for Marianne sniffling and my dad staring out the window like he wanted to burn a hole through the glass. When they got to the house I'd helped them buy, he got out without saying thank you. Marianne muttered something and followed him inside like a guilty kid. Then Evelyn had to go back, pick up the kids, plus the gift wine bottles they'd brought like props in a bad Hallmark movie. That ride was awkward too. Lucas texting nonstop, his girlfriend whispering, "Are we okay?" while Evelyn just wanted to crawl into bed and pretend the entire night never existed. Months later, Evelyn told me everything with guilt in her voice. "I didn't know," she said. "I didn't know what they'd been doing to you. I just thought you'd left early because you weren't feeling well." While they were dealing with chaos and tension, I was sitting in a 24-hour diner off Highway 80 in Sacramento. I stopped there around midnight, not because I was hungry, just because I didn't want to go home yet. Didn't want to sit alone with my thoughts, my dark apartment, and my silent phone. The diner was mostly empty. A couple truckers at the counter, a tired waitress refilling coffee, soft Christmas music playing from old speakers. I slid into a booth, ordered a slice of pie I didn't even want, and a decaf coffee. The waitress brought it with a kind smile. "Working Christmas Eve?" she asked. "Something like that," I said. She nodded like she understood and walked away. I sat there watching cars pull in and out of the parking lot. Normal people doing normal holiday things. Families traveling, people on their way somewhere warm and welcoming. And I realized I felt calm. Really calm. Not excited, not triumphant, not reliving the moment the credit cards declined, just steady, quiet calm. Like after a successful mission, everything handled, everyone safe, mission complete. My phone was still off in my purse. I knew the minute I turned it on, the storm would hit. Angry texts, voicemails, guilt trips, demands that I fix it. But that was tomorrow's problem. Tonight, I was just a woman sitting in a diner on Christmas Eve. For the first time in years, I didn't feel small about it. I thought about all the Christmases I had tried so hard, carefully chosen gifts, perfect wrapping, driving hours hoping this would finally be the year they treated me like I mattered, sitting at their table feeling like an outsider in my own family. And here I was now, alone in a booth at a highway diner. No expectations, no pressure, no pretending. And somehow it didn't feel lonely at all. The waitress came back, topped off my cup. "You doing okay, hun?" "Yeah, I think I am," she smiled. "Merry Christmas." "Merry Christmas," I replied. I left her a $20 tip on a $7 check and drove home. My apartment was quiet when I walked in. I'd left my Christmas tree lights on so the room glowed softly. I decorated it alone weeks earlier. Nobody visited, nobody cared. It was mine, just for me. I made tea and sat in the dark thinking about the contrast. Them, shoved in a cramped car, tension, anger, blame. Marianne crying, Dad furious, Lucas panicking. Me, calm, safe, peaceful. Alone, but not lonely.
For years, I believed being alone meant I failed somehow, that being by myself meant I wasn't good enough. But sitting there that night, I finally wondered if maybe I'd had it backwards. Maybe being alone was better than being around people who made me feel invisible. Maybe quiet was better than noise that drowned out my voice. Maybe peace mattered more than proximity. I fell asleep on the couch under the soft glow of the tree lights, my phone still off, not knowing what tomorrow would bring, but for the first time in a long time, I wasn't scared of it. I woke up Christmas morning with sunlight, neighbors cooking breakfast upstairs, kids in the parking lot testing out new bikes, normal Christmas morning sounds. I stretched, made breakfast, and stood at my window watching the world move. I thought about my phone, thought about turning it on. Didn't. Not yet. Instead, I made breakfast, just eggs and toast. Simple, quiet, mine. No Sonoma trip, no dress code, no hoping to be included. Just me, my tiny apartment, my tree lights. It was the smallest Christmas I'd ever had, and somehow the first one where I didn't feel small. Around 3 p.m., I finally turned my phone on. 68 text messages, 42 missed calls, 11 voicemails. I didn't read them all, just enough to catch the tone. Anger, confusion, entitlement, then desperation. The last text was from Marianne. "Brooke, please, we need to talk. Your father is very upset. Whatever we did, I'm sorry, but we can't just cut us off. We're family." Family. Funny how that word only mattered when they needed something.
I didn't respond. Instead, I called Lydia Moore, the attorney who once helped me with paperwork years ago. I didn't think she'd answer on Christmas Day. She picked up on the third ring. "Are you safe?" she asked first. "Yes," I said, "but I think I need a lawyer." I told her everything. She listened quietly, then said, "First, stop responding to them. All communication goes through me now. Second, I'm glad you called. You have every right to protect yourself. Boundaries aren't cruelty, they're survival." I didn't realize how badly I needed to hear that until she said it. By that evening, the paperwork was signed. By the next morning, I had a professional message to send to everyone, letting them know all communication now went through my lawyer. I sent it, blocked their numbers, not out of hate, not for revenge, for peace. The days after were quiet, beautifully, suspiciously quiet. Work, gym, reading, breathing. Then Lydia called near New Year's. My dad tried refinancing the mortgage. He couldn't. His credit took a hit from that night. His income wasn't strong enough without me on the loan. And the house? He couldn't sell it without my signature. Suddenly, he needed me way more than I ever needed him. Payments still came every month, but life started wearing on them. Marianne let her realtor license lapse. Dad's business started slipping. Nothing dramatic, just slow decline, stress cracks spreading. And for once in my life, I didn't feel guilty. No rage, no satisfaction, just understanding. Actions meet consequences. They tried reaching me anyway. Letters, messages, fake Facebook accounts, through friends, through work. Not to apologize, not to take responsibility, just to beg me to come back and fix what my absence broke. Lydia said something that stuck. The people who scream the loudest about family loyalty are usually the ones who break it the most. She was right. They didn't want me. They wanted my usefulness. So I chose silence. And silence, as it turns out, is power. Weeks passed. Peace became normal. I built a quiet life, a life that belonged to me. But sometimes late at night, the doubt crept in. Did I go too far? Was I cruel? Did I really ruin Christmas because I finally snapped? I'd sit awake in the dark, replaying the restaurant, my dad's face, my choice, the fallout. The guilt tried to creep in like water under a door, but deep down, I knew the truth. I didn't ruin Christmas. They did. I just finally stopped paying for it. I kept replaying everything in my head, over and over.
Maybe I should have just walked away quietly and dealt with it later. Maybe I should have taken my dad aside and talked to him privately instead of cutting the financial cord right there at that table. Maybe I should have given him time to apologize. Maybe I was the problem. Maybe I'd gone too far. I grabbed my phone. It was 2 in the morning, and I almost called Lydia. I almost asked her if what I did was legally right but morally wrong. I almost asked if protecting yourself somehow counts as revenge. But I didn't call. Instead, I sat there in the dark and forced myself to remember clearly. Not the maybe I'm overreacting version. Not the softened version that lets other people off the hook. The real version. I closed my eyes and went back to that room. The table. The white tablecloth. The candles burning softly. The 6 carefully arranged seats. I saw myself smiling as I walked in, trying to belong. Counting the chairs. Realizing there wasn't one for me. And then my dad's voice. Seats are for family. Not whispered quietly, not explained privately, said out loud, in front of everyone. Then laughter. Aunt Evelyn's loud laugh, Lucas smirking, Marianne smiling like she'd finally won. I remembered standing there holding my purse and the gift I'd brought, with nowhere to sit. I remembered that feeling like I'd been erased, told I didn't matter in the family I'd literally sacrificed for. And sitting alone at 2 in the morning in my apartment, I finally said it to myself out loud. I didn't ruin Christmas. They did. I didn't choose the seating chart. I didn't humiliate anyone. I didn't decide that someone who co-signed a mortgage and used her VA benefits didn't deserve a chair. All I did was stop protecting them from the fallout of their own behavior. Because here's the truth I'd ignored for years. Every time my dad hurt me, I absorbed it. Every time Marianne froze me out, I excused it. Every time Lucas was treated like royalty, I told myself it was fine. I swallowed it. I carried it. I kept showing up anyway. And what did it ever get me? Left out of Thanksgiving. Cheap, afterthought gifts. Standing at a Christmas table like a stranger while everyone laughed. My kindness didn't make them kinder. My patience didn't make them better. It only made it easier for them to treat me worse. So when I finally stopped protecting them, when I stopped taking the hits for everyone else, they finally had to face reality, and they hated it. Not because they felt bad about hurting me, but because it inconvenienced them. That isn't cruelty. That's cause and effect. I got up and went to my desk, pulled out the folder with all the house paperwork, VA loan files, mortgage agreements, authorization forms. My signature was everywhere, page after page. 17 times I'd legally put my neck on the line for people who couldn't even save me a seat. And guess what? Nowhere in those papers did it say I owed them unconditional support. Nowhere did it say, sign here to accept emotional abuse. Nowhere did it say, strong people aren't allowed to need love. Those weren't rules. Those were lies I'd been told until I believed them. You're strong. You can handle anything. You don't need anyone. Those weren't compliments. They were excuses. Excuses not to show up for me. Excuses not to care. And I finally remembered something important. I had a choice. I chose to sign to help them. I chose to show up. I chose to stay quiet and tough for years. And on Christmas Eve, I chose something else. I chose myself. Not because I wanted revenge, not because I wanted to hurt anyone, but because staying in that role was killing pieces of me. My dignity, my worth, my belief that I deserved anything better. Setting boundaries isn't cruelty. It's survival. I put everything back in the folder. The doubts were still there. Quieter now, but still whispering. Maybe they always will be. But doubt isn't the same thing as regret. For the first time, I slept. Really slept. And when I woke up, light streaming through the window, I felt lighter, like I'd finally set down a weight I'd been dragging around for years. Sure, I knew doubt would creep back sometimes. There'd be people who'd swear I was the villain in their version of this story. But here's the part nobody gets to rewrite. I was there. I counted the chairs. I heard the words. I lived the humiliation. And nobody who didn't stand in my shoes gets to tell me how I should have reacted. Not my dad, not Marianne, not Evelyn, not Lucas, not anyone who thinks I should have just smiled, swallowed it, and kept being the strong daughter who never needed anything. I didn't owe them that version of me. So when protecting myself meant their Christmas got ruined, they should have thought about that before they decided I didn't deserve a seat at their table. I made coffee, sat at my kitchen table, looked out at the January morning. Somewhere in Sonoma, I'm sure my dad was angry. I'm sure he was trying to figure out how to fix his finances without me, probably convincing himself I overreacted. Let him, because I know the truth. I didn't ruin Christmas. I just finally stopped saving it for people who never saved mine.
And time moves differently when you stop waiting for people to change. I'm writing this now, December 2025, 1 year later. I'm still in Sacramento. Same job, same apartment, same couch, same Christmas tree. But everything is different. I started therapy, found Dr. Patricia Chen, who works with veterans and family trauma. I resisted at first. I'd built my whole identity around being the strong one. Asking for help felt like failure. But Dr. Chen told me something that stuck. Strength isn't never needing support. Strength is knowing when to ask for it. So I asked. We talked about losing my mom. We talked about the Air Force. We talked about the empty chair. We talked about years spent begging for love from people who'd already decided I didn't matter. And slowly, I started to heal. I reconnected with old military friends, started hanging out again, built friendships, real ones. Work improved. I got promoted. I finally said yes to things that scared me. The mortgage still exists. My name's still there. Lydia says one day it'll resolve. Until then, it's just paper. They tried reaching out. Guilt, fake emergencies, manipulations. I didn't fall for it. I didn't run back. Lucas got engaged. I saw it before deleting Facebook. Their life went on without me. And I was okay with that. Actually, better than okay. I started volunteering. I helped other veterans. I told them the truth. You don't have to do this alone. One woman cried when I said that. I just sat with her. No fixing, just presence. That's what this year has been. Healing. Choosing people who choose me. Choosing peace. This Christmas, I'm hosting. A few veterans, a neighbor, people who actually want to be there. I bought a table with 8 chairs. Real chairs. Every seat belongs to somebody who matters, including me. Sometimes the family you're born into isn't the family you're meant to stay with. Sometimes you have to build your own table. So, here I am, 33, not married, no kids, no house. But I have peace. I have dignity. I have a table where I finally belong. Last year, standing in that restaurant counting chairs, I thought everything was ending. Turns out, it was just beginning. Thank you for listening to my story. Maybe this hit home for you. Maybe you've stood in a room where there wasn't a place for you. Maybe you've been the strong one for way too long. If that's you, hear me clearly. You're not alone. You're not weak for wanting better. And it's never too late to build your own table. Let me know in the comments where you're watching from and tell me what part hit you the hardest. If this story connected with you, make sure to subscribe to Revenge Stories Lab, hit that like button, and turn on the bell so more people can hear stories like this.
Not for hate, not for revenge, but to remind each other, you deserve better, and you're allowed to choose it.
Thanks for watching. Subscribe for more.